In case you're listening to this and you don't know what Trophy is, let me just give a quick summary of the project. So, the Trophy tabletop role-playing game is actually two different games, Trophy Dark and Trophy Gold. Trophy Dark is a one-shot game of psychological horror about a group of doomed treasure hunters going into an environment that doesn't want them there. It's a dark fantasy game, and it embraces an atmosphere of ruin and loss and tragedy. Trophy Gold is a more traditional multi-session campaign-based fantasy game like D&D and similar types of games. It takes the core mechanics that were established in Trophy Dark and builds on them a little bit to create this more traditional fantasy game. I will say, though, that even though it's a traditional fantasy game, it probably embraces the idea of desperation and hardship a little bit more than those other games do. Think the video game Darkest Dungeon. That's a great comparison point, I think, in terms of the vibe of Trophy Gold. Now, Trophy Dark and Trophy Gold were originally released in the Codex gaming magazine back starting in 2018. It was a series of PDF releases. So back in early 2020, we did a Kickstarter to turn Trophy into a physical product. That Kickstarter was to fund a book for Trophy Dark, a book for Trophy Gold, and a third book called Trophy Loom. Now, the Trophy Dark and Trophy Gold hardcover books that the Kickstarter funded and that you can now pre-order, they will include expanded versions of the Trophy Dark and Trophy Gold rule sets, plus dozens of what are called incursions. Incursions are what we call adventures in the Trophy system. The third book, Trophy Loom, is a system-agnostic setting book for the world that Trophy takes place in. Also, as part of that Kickstarter, we funded 3 different types of add-ons for the game. Some custom Trophy dice, some metal tokens called Hunt Roll tokens, which are used in Trophy Gold, and 5 decks of Trophy character creation cards. Hello, my name is Jason, and this is the Trophy Pre-Order special podcast episode. I am joined by the author of Trophy, Jesse Ross. Hi, Jesse.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And listeners, we got a lot to talk about today. First thing, the most important thing, is that the pre-orders for the Trophy tabletop role-playing game are live, and so we wanted to put together this episode in order to tell you a little bit about that, give you an update on how Trophy Dark and Gold and Loom are going, and to talk about some of the changes that we've made to the game, to the project, as we've had this time to sort of spend with it. So let's kick off with just generally how things are going, Jesse.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on how things are going right now?
Yeah, things are good given the year that we have had. 2020 has obviously been strange for everyone, but so far, so good. Things are progressing along nicely.
Yeah, let's talk about Dark and Gold and Loom specifically.
Okay.
So Dark right now is in the middle of final editing. We had wanted to have Dark, the PDF at least, done by now. I didn't really anticipate it initially when we were putting these books together, but as the project continued, became more apparent. Something that we are doing right now is making sure that stylistically all of the material and all the content feels consistent and coherent with one another. We have in Trophy Dark something like 22 incursions going into the book by about 15 different authors or somewhere around there. And originally, I just wanted Lauren, our editor, to do proofreading, right? Just to do the grammar and all that sort of stuff. But as we sort of dug into it, it became apparent pretty quickly that in order for the book to feel like a unified product, because we have so many authors, we really needed Lauren to also do style editing, which is more time and a little bit more expense, but worth it, I think.
For sure. Lauren's great. She's a pro.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of an abstract idea, I think, but listeners, it's really important to understand that, like, we really want all of these books to feel like a very unified whole. Because of the nature of the project, there's so many people working on it who have done so much of the different text. It was really important to get Lauren in there to sort of shape it, to make the style very, very consistent across the board. And it's working great. Like, it's like the text is just looking so good. I've seen a lot of the edits that have gone through, and I think people are going to be very, very pleased with the end product.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So that's where Dark is. Gold is not quite as far along in the text, but still pretty far along. The main thing with Gold right now is the dev editing.
Right.
It is a monster dev editing project because Gold is a little bit more mechanically complicated than Dark, but it's fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it.
And just in terms of pieces that are going into that, more complicated too, especially with the mega dungeon, right? There are just a lot of moving pieces to fit together and make it feel like a cohesive whole.
It's a fair amount of work to do. You know, something that I've been doing a lot is this year is playing a lot of Trophy Gold, like a lot of Trophy Gold. And you've heard me talk about it on the Trophy podcast that I do with Jed on the Sixth Ring. And I've been playing it a lot, and that has been not just for my own personal enjoyment, which it is that, but also I feel like I'm getting a really good sense of Trophy Gold and how it works and what sorts of things to look out for. And that's really, really feeding directly back into the developmental editing that we're doing on Trophy Gold. And I'm so happy that this is sort of how this year has worked out, because I think it would not be as good a project if I was not doing all of this play.
Right.
So that's been a nice, from a sort of like personal, professional growth thing, that's been pretty fun for me. Luma is also very, very close. We've actually just commissioned some new writing on Loom. How's Loom going, Jesse?
Loom is great. Loom is actually maybe the piece of this that I am the most excited about at the moment, just because the level of world building and the sheer creativity that is going into those pieces is mind-blowing. Every time I see a new piece, I'm just completely filled with new ideas and directions for the game and incursions and new adventures to happen in the world based on all of these little bits and pieces that people are pulling in. It's truly astounding, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, this is something that I really want folks to take away here, which is, so you and I have had a lot of time to spend with Trophy over the last couple of years, and you may not agree with this, but this is my feeling on it. I feel like Trophy, as we published it in Codex, did a great job with presenting a very robust but nevertheless mechanically light dark fantasy fairy tale type system.
Yep.
And I think we did a great job in Codex, with the Codex releases, of creating a mood and an atmosphere and a vibe that like Trophy brings. Everyone knows the creepy forest. Right. Everyone embraces that. And that's great mechanics, great atmosphere. What these books do, that is probably only apparent to you and me and Lauren and maybe some of the authors at this point, what these books do is they add a third layer to it, a third piece of the puzzle, which is depth.
Right.
There is an incredible amount of depth that is added with these books. This is a fascinating world. Like, the world that these three books represent, I want to engage with it. I have so many questions about it. And not questions because we didn't answer them, but questions because I want to go further.
Yeah, intentional
There's
questions.
so many tantalizing. Yeah, it's so tantalizing.
Totally like open spaces for people to play in.
Right.
We're giving people the hooks to be able to build their own world on top of, right? Which was always the intention with this. And those hooks, those threads are so enticing, right? You just want to pull on them and see where they go.
Yeah. I wish we could just like share the raw text of Loom with everybody, because without looking at the text, Loom is like, to me, probably the hardest thing to understand.
Right.
And
yeah.
how it fits into the puzzle. But gosh, all three books as a collection, you're getting this great system, you're getting this great environment, you're getting this lots of fun playability, just so much good stuff there. But collectively, what you're getting is this fabulously deep world. And I get like a sort of Soulsborne vibe from it. It's this world that demands to be probed and questioned and engaged with, and I just want to do it.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
So excited to have them out there. So I'm feeling pretty good about having all the PDFs done by March at the pace we're going. That feels about right. Yeah. So folks can look forward to that for sure. How about the add-ons, the dice, tokens, and cards? That's your domain. So how's that going?
So I will say add-ons we're in very good shape on. We identified our manufacturers and our production partners really early on with that, and locked in a lot of rates really early, which was helpful just given how crazy and unpredictable this year has been. The tokens are all set to go as soon as we have final numbers. Same thing with all of the dice. Cards, we're still wrapping up some of the bits and pieces on that, but our production partner is already lined up and they're ready to pull the trigger as soon as we send them files. So so feeling really good about all of those. I'm particularly excited about the cards. We sneak peeked a few little pictures of the card backs to a few different people on our Discord and other places. And the reception has been phenomenal. We're really excited about those. I think they're going to make for a really rich play experience for people once they start using them.
Yeah, absolutely. Good little quick where things stand update for folks. Let's kind of go into something a little meatier now. Something that we've been able to do because of the way we rolled Trophy out and the way we have been developing it is that we have been able to play it a lot.
Yeah.
And with the Kickstarter, suddenly a lot more people were playing it because we gave them the full rule set before we even launched. We've had a really tremendous opportunity, the sort of opportunity that I think that probably only bigger companies get with their like structured playtest programs.
Right.
We've had an opportunity to get so much wonderful feedback on the games and to really think and marinate in how we want the rules to be sort of finalized for the books. Because of that, there are some pretty, I don't want to say significant changes. They are significant. They're more like refinements and additions from my point of view.
Yeah.
But we have some changes going into the rules that I think people are going to be really excited about. So tell us about some of those.
Yeah. So first of all, I just want to give credit to the Trophy community for helping playtest and beat up a lot of these rules and give us feedback on exactly what else they wanted to see and where they were running into snags. We have maybe some of the smartest people playtesting and playing with our games. And so I'm super grateful towards them for all of their good feedback. So the probably two most requested things across both Trophy Dark and Trophy Gold are rules for teamwork. So you get in trouble and you want someone to help you out. And rules for, I won't say quite PvP, but maybe treasure hunter versus treasure hunter conflict, right?
Yeah.
And seeing how that plays out. So you ask and you shall receive. The first new addition that we're going to talk about today is the help roll, which will be available in both Trophy Dark and Trophy Gold. There were a few different ways that we thought about going about this, but the most important things were to make sure that we were creating one of a very simple and sort of logical additional role that made sense in context, that was enticing,
right,
but also potentially dangerous. It can't be so scary that you never want to help someone, and there must always be some sort of potential for risk. That's just inherent in the games. So the help roll, as it looks right now, is basically whenever a fellow treasure hunter has made a roll that includes a dark die, what you can do is you can say, well, I want to help them out and chime in.
Okay.
And this is a new way to be able to get a light die for your roll. So if you're the helped person, the helped treasure hunter, you get one extra light die in your roll. So the other player rolls it, and then whatever that result is, you can incorporate into your roll.
Okay.
So you can say, if they rolled a 6, that's now my 6, and I get full success, and I'm good. However, because the helped treasure hunter is rolling a dark die, if that dark die matches the helper's light die, a little bit similar to how we do weak points in Trophy Gold combat, the helping treasure hunter takes ruin.
Nice.
So there's always a threat of risk. However, you can only ever take one max rune out of that, so it's not cumulative, right, in the way that combat is with Trophy Gold. But that threat is on the table. The other nice piece is that if they decide not to include your die in the roll, and then they add an additional dark die, there's still that threat, and now there's an additional threat, right? If that matches, you can still you can still take the ruin. So it's an addition that in play feels really logical, feels like an extension of the other roles that are already in there, and adds just enough risk with a good possible upside to, I think, make it a great addition to the game.
Yeah, I love it. I'm gonna say it back to you to make sure I got it right.
Yes.
If I have it right, that means listeners do, because I'm really slow on this stuff. I was doing armor wrong for 100 years, listeners. So basically, I'm doing a risk roll, and someone offers to help me. I take their help. They get to roll a light die.
Yep.
But if that light die, now my risk roll has to have a dark die in it.
Yep.
As a precursor. So I'm doing a risk roll with a dark die, and they get to add a light die. They roll it. And if their light die matches my dark die,
they take ruin. Yep.
Oh, nice. In Trophy Dark, do they get a condition as well?
Not necessarily, though that could be a potential addition if it makes sense.
Got it. Yeah, that's great. I love that because it, like you said, it's enticing. There's a solid mechanical benefit there. You know, another light die that's very powerful in a game that has such a small die.
We're very stingy with the light dice, so it's a
right,
yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
But like you said, it is still dangerous. And so I think what you're doing there is you're definitely preserving the sort of fundamental risk of trophy rolls, and I think that's great. So that sounds like a really, really good addition. And I will say, having run quite a lot of Trophy Dark, it comes up fairly frequently.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to help. In Trophy Gold especially. I don't think it comes up in Dark quite as much in my experience, but in Gold, that it does come up every now and then where it's like, well, can I help him? And I always say, well, yeah, you can help. It's in the fiction. It's just fictional. It's fictional positioning, maybe, but there's no mechanical heft there. So that's great. I think that's a great addition. Okay, what else are we getting?
Cool. The next piece that everyone has been asking for is a way to have player characters battle one another. Or maybe not always that, but just an opportunity for one player to get the leg up on their fellows. Right. So an example that has come up a few times in some games that I have run is racing to get the treasure first.
Right. Like in Ring 5 of Trophy Dark, right? That's a big one.
Yep. Yeah. So it's not necessarily a direct conflict. Maybe you're not trying to cause harm in that instance, but you are trying to be the first. So the new role is called the contest role, and it can be used for harm, but it is also useful for that exact situation of like, I want to be the first one to this thing. We're actually still playtesting a few different variations on it because we have found some things that are working and some things that need a little bit more refinement, but that is coming and we're very excited about that.
This is one of those things where the Discord, again, the Trophy Discord, which is essentially the Trophy community at this point, this is where the Discord is so helpful because, so I remember this specific conversation on the Discord, people saying there needs to be a role that's a player versus player role, a treasure hunter versus treasure hunter, because in the last game I played, such and such was trying to get this, and then we didn't have a way of figuring it out. Mm-hmm. And I, of course, because I am in certain parts of role-playing games, I have a dogma that I follow, and one of those dogmas is you can just talk it out. There's no reason to have to have a die roll for everything. You can just talk it out. That's what I do. I've run it a million times. That's what we do. No sooner than I said that, the next day I ran the Giant's Carcass, which is Sabine's wonderful dark incursion, and wouldn't you know it, the very last ring, it came up, it's we needed a way to mechanically resolve a contest between the two characters trying to grab the heart of the giant. And I was like, of course. And now I feel like it happens all the time now.
Yeah. It's like that situation where you notice you buy a car and then you notice that everyone has that car.
Yeah. Well, but the reason why the Discord is so great is because I think that maybe you do too, but I know I have blind spots.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because I play a lot of games and I have my way of doing it, and sometimes the way I do it is just play culture. It's not really a mechanics thing or whatever, It was a blind spot for me to think that the game didn't need a PvP role.
Right.
The Discord very helpfully was no, everybody jumped in with their
18 instances. Yeah.
Yeah, their instances and they needed it. So I was okay, well, good. So, and then, of course, we've got a few iterations here. We want to make sure we get this part right.
Yeah. So that is coming very soon though. And then there's actually a couple other things that we've been playing with just as a couple additions. So I recently said on the Discord, and we'll say here again, that one of my major regrets about Trophy Dark is just the way that the reduction roll was handled, because it is pretty one note and it's one of those instances where like a failure doesn't really do anything, right? Like it just kind of falls flat. I had been playtesting a few different alternatives for that and came up with a change that I'm really happy with and have gotten some good feedback from others who have been playtesting it as well, which is essentially that in the normal reduction roll, which is the roll that you make once you hit 5 ruin and you want to start reducing your amount of ruin, you have to try to attempt to betray your fellows. And then you roll, and if you get less than your ruin, then your ruin goes down. That's okay, fine. Well, what happens if you roll over?
Right.
Then nothing.
Like
right?
literally nothing.
Nothing happens. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
the change now is that whenever you do something where you're attempting to betray your fellows, you roll, and if you get less than, fine, plays out as normal. Your betrayal goes successfully, and your ruin goes down. But if you don't, now the change is you can still opt to reduce your ruin, but you get noticed. Someone notices your attempted betrayal. Just that little change, one, gives a little bit more play and value to that roll because of it's going to succeed, right? If you want it to, your ruin can go down, but it starts pointing the fingers at each other, which is a very important piece and something that doesn't always organically happen. It usually does, but not always organically. And so this is a little mechanical push to make sure that it happens a bit more frequently.
Yeah, I love it. I haven't had a chance to test this one yet, but I've played enough Trophy Dark to know that this is going to work great.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, more often than you would think, it shouldn't, because it should only be, a 1 in 6 chance, right? But more often than you would think, the reduction roll, nothing happens.
Right.
I mean, I think of the official AP, there was a reduction roll where nothing happened.
Yeah.
And it's fine. It doesn't really lead to much. There's not much like story happening, right?
Yep.
And so what I think is so great about this reduction roll is it reinforces the themes of Trophy Dark, which is this sense of like betrayal among the group,
right,
of these sort of like fundamentally dastardly characters, or at least unsympathetic characters doing unsympathetic things. And you can already see there's a choice to be made, like it's in the player's hands if they fail to roll, to say, well, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Right.
Consequences be damned. That consequence leads to good storytelling. It's an invitation.
Right.
Something that, get into gameplay theory now for a minute, but something that happens a lot in games where PvP is implied or even explicit is that players sometimes don't feel empowered to engage in PvP because they don't want to be that guy or that girl, Right. So they don't want to rock the boat at the table, and so they don't engage with the PvP mechanics. It's nice when a game mechanically gives you permission to do it, because then you feel like, it's like, well, there's a rule for it, so it must mean it's okay to do.
Right.
Right? Yeah, it's okay to role play in this direction. I think Monster Hearts is a classic example of a game that clearly gives you a nudge and incentivization to engage with the PvP aspects of what it's doing.
Right.
And so I think this is a great touch. And it's fairly light. It's a totally light change. It's not that complicated. And it sounds great to me.
The other thing that I like about what it does is, we mentioned player versus player, or PvP. It actually makes it not player versus player, right? It means the players are all working together to sort of decide how this story plays out.
Right.
It makes it character versus character, which I think is an important
Yeah.
distinction, is that as the player, you're saying, I want to engage in this mechanic. I want to betray my fellows. I'm getting caught now. Tell me how you notice.
Tell me what do you do to me, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's consent, right? It's
Exactly.
consent in play.
Yep.
It really is. This is something that comes up on all my other podcasts, but even our wonderful editor, Lauren, has spoken and written really eloquently about the idea of like consent in gameplay, right? And this is that, right? Like this is consent in gameplay. It's like saying, but by saying, I failed my reduction roll, I'm going to go ahead and reduce my ruin anyway. And you now know what I did. You're essentially like consenting to having the other players like call you out, or challenge you, or whatever, react. Yeah, I think it's very nice.
Cool.
Okay, great. So what next? I'm excited about all these goodies. All these changes are exciting. What else is coming?
So there are a few other things just based on play experience that we've seen, our own and others. We've gotten a ton of questions about how hunt rolls should be used, how the tokens should be used, when you can cash them in, who loses them, do you gain them as a group or individually? All of that is getting clarified and smoothed over, so I'm very excited about that.
So I'm very excited to never answer these questions again. So yeah.
So those are coming. And then we've been seeing a lot of really interesting things happening with combat roles for Trophy Gold. And there are things that we've seen, that we've experienced, that we want to make sure there's official support for in the rules themselves. So things like, what happens if I wasn't there first and I want to join the fight late? How does that happen? When do my dice come in?
Happens all the time. Yep.
Or I want to use a ritual during combat. What does that look like? Or maybe not even a ritual, but I just want to do something. I don't want to actually be involved in the combat, but I want to set up one of my fellows so that they have better success on their next roll.
This comes up literally every game I play.
All the time, yes.
Yep.
And then when the combat is going poorly, how do you get out of it? What does escape look like, right? Like, who's at risk? What happens? How does that play out? So all of that is going to get clarified in the new rules, which, again, super grateful to our community for all of their experiences and advice on those elements, because I think it's going to make combat that much more smooth and exciting.
You know, something that's been so pleasing to me as the publisher of Trophy and all of its iterations is we're getting to see this development of the game. And this, I don't think maturing is the right word, but I said earlier that like the books are adding like a certain level of depth.
Yeah.
And more than that, they're fleshing out what was mostly implied before.
Right.
Because the Codex releases, everything we release in Codex comes with a certain amount of play culture built in, or a certain amount of like implication for how things should go.
Yeah.
Like we never, for example, talk about safety tools in Codex games because we just assume all of our readers are doing it.
Right.
These books are us getting to formalize and really make the game the best it can be, right? Like the Codex versions were this sort of like this scrappy internal versions, right? Mm-hmm. This is like the mature product, and it's very, very exciting from a publishing standpoint. It's so exciting.
It's codifying all of the things that we were already doing, or, you know, some of the new discoveries that we made through just more experience with the game. But that like bringing together and like really writing down what our play culture looks like is super exciting, and I'm really excited to see how people respond to that.
Super exciting. Okay, so what's left?
One last thing. This has come up in, I think, most of the contests that we've run, especially the most recent Trophy Gold Incursion Writing Contest. People are so excited about making their own custom rolls.
Yes.
And I blame you for this with your Nightmare roll from Hester's Mill.
I blame myself because it's making the dev editing on Trophy Gold hell, but it's a good hell. I'm loving it, but it's fucking hell. So
but the rolls in Trophy are very simple and straightforward. And yet there are questions about like, how do you make a good roll? What does that look like? What kind of mechanics and resources should I be playing with? Like, how do I make a good roll?
Right. Yeah.
And so that is something that we want to see a lot more of. So we'll have a little bit of guidance for how to make your own custom rolls in both dark and gold.
Super exciting. I don't have this in our notes, but I do want to talk a little bit about, I'm so close to just giving everybody the text on there. I'm not going to do that, but I really want people to understand how cool Luma is. And something we've done in the last few weeks is we identified a few things that we decided the world needed to be fleshed out, needed to be written. And so we've gotten some of the very best writers in the Trophy community to do that. Gabriel Robinson, Madeline Ember, Natalie Ash, Michael, and James Holloway, who did all the religion stuff. We've basically asked them to come back for another round of Loom writing, basically. And some of the ideas and some of the stuff that's coming out of this is so freaking cool. I'm just like so hyped for it. There are these fabulous generators that we're putting in. Like we already promised a few of them, right, from the Kickstarter, but we've got like, they're expanding in a scope that I don't think you and I really anticipated originally in the Kickstarter.
It's awesome.
Like it's totally awesome. Like you're going to look at these tables, listeners, and you're going to be like, oh my God, this is so fucking cool. I want to just roll up everything right now. You know, these tools that we're building into Loom, I mean, you were going to be able to take Loom and you were going to be able to spend time with it, love it, absorb it, but importantly, use it to create your own incursions. Or if you're going to play another fantasy game, you can definitely create your own adventures inspired by these elements. But for trophy writing, you're going to be able to just create so many awesome things from it, and it's all going to feel like part of the same world, even though it's your creation. And so I want listeners to know that we have a awesome team of writers. They all turned in some amazing stuff and we're super hype about it. And then Jesse and I decided we needed more. So we've gone back to the well and asked that same awesome team of writers, or most of them, to go in and write us some more stuff. And you are going to be delighted. Purchasers of the trophy books are going to be absolutely delighted. It's such cool stuff. So it's still generally in the form that we thought it was going to be when we did the Kickstarter. But
mostly tables. Yeah, just cool, useful tables.
But on all 3 books, it has like just expanded in a way that is just so enriching and adds so much depth and just so many cool things to engage with. And I think it just really, really goes beyond what even you and I anticipated. The team of writers just fucking nailed it. I mean, they just
did.
really
Yeah.
nailed it. Okay, pre-orders. Pre-orders are live. So there is a pre-order store, and we will have a link in the show notes. It's also linked on the Kickstarter page. This is what you can get. If you back the Kickstarter and you got the Treasure Hunter tier, which was the $150 tier that came with everything, you probably don't really need to add on much. You might want a few extra tokens or dice, in which case, by all means, go get those. But you should be more or less set. But for everybody else, there's going to be a lot of stuff there. We have what is a pre-order edition of the Treasure Hunter tier from Kickstarter. It's different from the Kickstarter one because it's $10 more expensive for one thing, but also it doesn't have the slipcase that the Kickstarter backers got. So we wanted to make the Kickstarter backers just have something a little bit more special than the pre-order backers because, you want to reward your early supporters. But nevertheless, the pre-order edition of Treasure Hunter comes with all 3 books, comes with a full set of 16 custom dice. That's 4 light, 4 dark, and 8 gold. It comes with 12 hunt roll tokens and all 5 decks of character cards. It's $160 USD. The eventual retail price of all of that will be $215 if you bought it all separately, retail. So it's a big savings. And so that is, for a lot of people who are just getting in on Trophy, that's the level you're going to want to get in on, I think. For folks who backed the Kickstarter but did not get the Treasure Hunter tier and now they think they want to, you all have an option to upgrade your pledge to get the Treasure Hunter pre-order edition. So you have not missed out on that. You just go in and you'll see the upgrade option go in there. For folks who are new to Trophy or who are just approaching the store for the first time, you also can get the books individually. You can get the dice individually. You can also get the dice in sets of 4. So you can get 4 dark, 4 light, and 4 gold. You can get the hunt roll tokens in a set of 12 or a set of 6. And you can get all 5 decks of cards as well. So you have a lot of options for the Trophy stuff that you think you might want to get. Even if you feel like you have everything you want, you may still want to get some extras of stuff. I think if it were me and I'm thinking, okay, I got the Treasure Hunter tier, what add-ons do I think I need? I think the 2 add-ons I would go for is the 6 hunt roll tokens and the 4 gold dice.
Yep.
Just to have plenty at the table. I think that the amount that comes with Treasure Hunter is a good amount for 3 or 4 players. But if you think you're going to have like 5 players at some point, I think having a few extra hunt roll tokens and a few extra gold dice. The extra gold dice is nice because you get 8 in the Treasure Hunter set, but if you have 12, i.e. you get the additional 4, that's enough gold dice for every monster in the game, right? So you can just roll the dice once. If you don't want the extra gold dice, you just roll some dice twice. Yeah. It's not that big a deal. Yeah, it's not a big deal. But anyway, so those are, I think I would probably go for the extra gold dice and the extra hunt roll tokens.
Yep.
And then I think
that's the right call.
Feel good.
For sure.
But there's lots of options there for folks. I'm pretty excited about the array that we've made available for people. Pretty exciting. Jesse, anything else you want to say about Trophy before we sign off today?
Go buy it. It's going to be great. It's coming along beautifully, and it's going to be so good. It's going to look so good. Yeah, you're going to love it.
I'm so proud of it. I do want to leave you all with this. The last time we spoke, I think, Jesse, I said that I view Trophy as a long-term big project that involves it's not just publishing. It involves many different aspects of our community and of different things that we do in the Gauntlet. And so we have been producing the Trophy podcast, and I want to do a plug for the Trophy podcast. We have basically 2 things in that Trophy podcast feed. One is a discussion podcast with myself and Judd Carlman called The Sixth Ring. And essentially what we do every episode of The Sixth Ring is we talk a little bit about stuff going on in the trophy community, like different third-party products. We talk about gameplay theory. We do a little bit of actual play. Judd and I create stuff for Trophy on the fly. It's a fun kind of
it's
trophy, all things trophy show. And then the other thing that we have in that feed is we do some actual plays. And so right now we have an actual play of Trophy Gold that's in the Hester's Mill incursion that we did in conjunction with Chimera Cast. It's a wonderful actual play. If you listen to it, you're going to love it. You're going to be so entertained. And importantly, you're going to fall in love with Trophy Gold. So I'm pretty excited about that project, and I want folks to go take a look at that.
As someone who is in no way involved with the production at all, it is so much fun to listen to. You guys have such great chemistry, and everyone should check it out. It's just such a great example of how to run a good game and how to like just fully engage with a world. So I love it.
I want people to engage with it because to me, like, okay, I'm publishing Trophy, you're writing Trophy, it's a lot of work, it's a second full-time job, it's a lot of work, and that's all great. But I am, at my heart, I am a player of role-playing games, and I like to play lots of role-playing games, and I like to talk about role-playing games. And so for me, I like that sort of full sort of experience, right? And so, you know, I don't want to just give you the game, listeners. I want to give you all this other stuff too. so come engage with the stuff. We're working so hard to make Trophy just like a community, like a really cool, fun community. So go check it out. The Discord, please go join us on the Discord. We'll have a link to the Discord as well. The Discord is always hopping. You can see what other people are working on. So much cool stuff happening. And like we've already said before on this show, a brain trust, a nerve center for like trophy development. Yeah. So cool.
Truly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Jesse, thank you for joining me on this special episode.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
And listeners, go check out the pre-order page. Thanks.